New Mexico, the very northern part of New Mexico, and moved into Texas, and we went down that way. And let me tell you something, Texas is flat. I mean, my son lives 900 miles away, but as soon as we entered Texas, I could see his house. Let me tell you how flat Texas is. You know, the coronavirus is really spiking in Texas. That's because if you breathe anywhere, there's nothing to stop it. It just keeps going. So it was a wonderful trip down there, but I did live in Texas. Norm and I and family lived in Texas for a couple of years in San Angelo, Texas. And wonderful people. They are really wonderful, wonderful people. Very, very family-oriented people. At least all the people we met in San Angelo and the people we've met in Dell's community, just wonderful people. And that's the way life should be. And I think maybe when we get through this coronavirus, we'll all be a little more open in our hearts and minds to be wonderful, friendly, caring, helping, serving people. That happens to be the destiny of the human race. And while we've had setbacks along the way, every time we've had a setback, we've come a little further, a little closer. Well, we're really in a big setback right now. So it's not just a matter of intellectually realizing some things are very wrong that need to be fixed. I think what we need to do, all of us, and I think that Syntysche's service with Norma today is going to help us get to a place where we come to finally understand that we are not self-created, and that everything that is created is God, and that everything that we look upon that is created is sacred and worthy of our deepest consideration, our deepest respect, and our deepest love. So this service today is about that, helping us find our way more and more into that. Enjoy.
Good morning, everyone. So today we're doing a little something different, and we're going to do a ceremony in here. We didn't get to do our spring equinox and our summer solstice, and of all times for us to not do that, it really called to me that it's time to do a ceremony together. I don't have to be a talking puppet at you. You guys already know how much we need to connect with Spirit and call and evoke the spiritual energy to thank Mother Earth and Father Sky to come together in unity in our hearts. So we're going to start with chanting. So I'm going to have you stand up, and I'm going to sing a song for Mother Earth. I hear all creation calling, calling me to honor, honor and respect all life. I hear the call, I hear the call. be singing periodically through this service. The talk title for today is A Quest for Vision. The Hopi have always had their fingers on the pulse of the planet, and they do now. Their question for us, are you going through a portal or are you going down a hole? Some of us are doing a little bit of both. We're lifting up in wonderful ways in some areas. In other ways, we feel like we're sinking down in a hole and we don't know how to pull ourselves out of it. And we know that this is a pressure cooker right now for everyone. We drive down the Pearl Street Mall and we see all these businesses closing, and every once in a while we just get that moment where it hits you in the chest and you find yourself crying because you can't believe all that's falling away. Some of us are dealing with employment issues, health issues, all of the normal issues we all had before the pandemic happened, and then all of a sudden everything else is changing and it's like we're kind of standing on this shaky ground. Norma and I have been leading equinox and solstice ceremonies for over 20 years, and I thought of all times for us to not be doing ceremony. For me, the unity practice is a really important practice for me, but I've always done ceremonies for every single season. I've always been a part of sweat lodges with the indigenous people, and for me, ceremony is so important to cleanse my spirit and get a clarity around what that season is about for me, what I'm letting go that's limited in belief systems, and what I'm gaining to be more of the conduit of God's love for this world, or source's love, whatever word makes you feel hugged. None of them have any meaning other than that great potential, that great love. So for this ceremony, I wanted to invite you to make an intention. The universe is always signing up for us. But the universe also does not interrupt our lives. Sometimes we have to get out of the intellect and get into the heart and recognize the areas that we're falling short, or we're falling into fear, or we're falling into a place that we know is not our highest good. When we decree something to the universe like, I'm whole, I'm healing, or I want to be healed. I want to heal my marriage. I want to heal my relationship with my child. And we call it out to the universe, and seasonally we can bring healing and wholeness to all areas of life. And this is also around careers that have fallen away. You name it. I know we all have different things that are showing up in our lives. So I'm going to take you through a journey. I'm going to kind of do it shamanic style. I won't be using unity quotes in any way, shape, or form. This is definitely an indigenous service and my experience through ceremony. And I'm going to share a story. They talk about shamans are the weepers, the storytellers, and the singers, right? So I'm not calling myself a shaman right now, but I will be doing it in the order of what a shaman would do, which is sharing stories with you about their own lives to hopefully evoke or remind you of moments where you felt God so closely you could taste it, feel it, and see it in the colors surrounding that situation. I want to invite Norma out, and we're going to bless the four corners before we go into the next phase. And we're going to stand up and bless the four corners.
To the west, in Neganagua, restore to us truth, honor, and integrity. Niawin, thank you. To the north, Ahorga, purify our intentions. Niawin. To the east, Naiganagua, guide us in our spiritual life. Niawin. To the south, Enka, heal us body, mind, and soul. Niawin. Ista Ahanja, Mother Earth. Yanha Arenya, Father Sky. Songwaya Tisen, O great creator of all life. Neowin.
If we focus on the problems and consume of the news 24 hours a day with little energy, nervous all the time with pessimism, you will fall into the hole, is what the Hopis say. But if you take this opportunity to look at yourself, rethink life and death, take care of yourself and others, you will cross the portal. Take care of your homes, take care of your body. Connect with your spiritual house. About 9 years ago, I was out at lunch on a Sunday with my family down on Pearl Street. And somebody came up to us that knew us and was letting us know that later that day there was a sweat lodge that was happening that was private, and it was a Native American shaman that was going to be leading as a woman. And I've been to many sweats in my life, and I don't necessarily like them. If you've ever been to them, they're really torturous, and they're really hot, and they're like, and I already run kind of hot by nature. But I knew when this person walked in that it was spirit literally walking into this restaurant, because I was at a crossroads in my life where everything that I was used to in my life, everything that said home, said, identity, was falling away, and I was feeling an extreme sense of out of control. And when this person came in and said, "Would you like to participate in this sweat?" It was like, I was like, no. But I knew I couldn't say no, because I knew Spirit was saying, you have got to go and face your inner journey. Your inner journey is calling you. And I always have known that there's something that comes into crystal clarity when I've done a sweat or I've done an equinox ceremony or a solstice. And I looked at my mom, and she just looked thrilled, because how many times had she invited me to go on a sweat, and I said no, and I said no, and finally she's like, whoa, we get to go on a sweat, because she is, the ultimate Native American. I'm kind of a whitey when it comes to them. So we went out and we found ourselves white dresses, because you have to wear white cotton dresses to show up at these. And when we got there, it was actually being held at Kini Christie's home, which a lot of you know her as one of our great soloists of our church. She lives in Hawaii now. In fact, she had a birthday a few days ago, so we're going to send that out to her. But when we got there, I thought it'd be about time for the sweat, but that's how Native time is different than our time. It's much slower. So it's just the time where it's time to start carrying all these heavy boulders to put into the pit where they're going to fight, put the fire around the rocks. And at first that annoyed me very much, because I felt like I was just going to go in and sit down and have a sweat. Now I'm like doing men's work in a way. And I also knew it would be at least 4 hours before we're going to get in this, so that meant now I'm going to be here a lot of hours. But as I carried those rocks, something started shifting in my being. I was feeling extremely vulnerable, and I was feeling extremely fearful of what I was going to find within myself, because it's really the preparation of the ceremony that starts the ceremony. That's why that intention's so important, that as I carried those rocks, I knew something big was going to happen that day. And the lights of the sky started changing, and this hue of orange, if you've ever been with somebody that's crossed over, you see this auburn orange color that appears in rooms when people are passing in hospice, and you get to know what this color of spirit looks like. And there's a sense that this chanting was starting to happen in my soul. It was a heartbeat that was palpable. And I was recognizing that I have not been connecting, earthing my feet on the earth and connecting with what Spirit wants for me in this phase of my life. So we go into the heat when it's finally going, and I'm sitting next to my mom, and Keeney's son's sitting here, and there's a woman that her intention was to heal herself from cancer, and there's another person that had lost his career and was trying to have a vision of what he wanted for his life, and we had the shaman woman and her 12-year-old son which I thought was amazing because 12 years old is quite young to endure the kind of pressure that that heat does. But he was sitting right next to his mom. And as we're sitting there, I'm feeling this sense like I'm suffocating. I cannot get my breath, and I'm getting fearful that I really cannot get my breath. Maybe the seating where I'm sitting inside this sweat is like not getting any oxygen, whatever. And I'm looking at my mom, and she's sitting there. And the vision I have of her from the side profile is of her hair, and it's just draping to the ground, and it's just moving like this. And there's nothing but light coming off of her. I'm thinking, what is wrong with me? Why can't I get connected to that? I know that's me, but I can't. I was just so, I'm suffocating. And I finally lean into my mom, like, Mom, I can't breathe. I'm really having trouble breathing. And she says, lay down on the earth. Lay down on the earth. So I squeeze my way to laying on the earth, and that sort of regains breath, but then before I know it, I'm feeling like I'm suffocating again. So I see that under the tent, I could stick my finger out and kind of get the temperature outside, trying to cool my body down. But really, I'm in a panic attack because there's too much that's coming up that I have to face. And eventually, I've got my lips squeezed out the bottom of the tent, trying to get air. And my mom's like, oh my gosh, if you leave this thing early, I have raised you better than this. And then I start hearing whimpers from the 12-year-old boy in this room, and I'm thinking of the age that I am right now, and he's whimpering. He's in fear. He's feeling so many emotions coming up. And I'm hearing it, I'm feeling it, and I'm thinking, why can't I get my act together? This 12-year-old stayed so strong, and he's trying to stay strong. And I see the shaman look at her son with a look like you would not want your mom to ever look at. It was like, this isn't happening, this is not necessary, and this is not wanted. This was a rite of passage, clearly, for this young man. And I thought, wow, that was a strong mother. It was like, you will endure this. So I want to go into this chant, and I'll go on to this story afterwards. And you guys can stand up and join us if you want, and you can also stay seated and just receive the message of these words. So I was laying there gasping for air as I heard this young boy start to cry. And I saw the look of that shaman woman that was giving him power. She was empowering him. But it was clear that he was going to have to reach inside himself to find a depth of more strength and more strength. And I was trying to reach into her eyes and get that strength and get that strength. But then all of a sudden, this boy just starts howling, crying from his soul in a way that it was like the ethers were opening up. The sound of his cries were the cries that were inside of me and the cries of everybody that was sitting in that room. All of the things that were happening in their lives, this boy was giving a voice to what was happening in all of us. And at one point, the shaman woman says, "My son today is doing this sweat because his father has abandoned him. And he's doing this sweat to be shown that his mother earth and his father sky are his true family. And that he's been made in love and that he is loved. And that will never leave him." This sent the boy into tears of crying in a way that was palpable. And slowly each person just started howling from their souls, from this pressure cooker of heat that we were sitting in. Our lives were coming up for us, and we had to face the loss of what was changing in our lives. What was showing up for me at the moment, it was, why is my marriage ending? Why do my children have to feel this divorce? Why do I have to start all over? And I cried and I howled, and as I cried and I howled, the heat started to dissipate. The heat started to leave my body. And they talk about that in sweats, that when it is so unbearable, it's because you're not willing to let yourself feel the truth of your being. You're resisting your truth. And I feel like that's kind of what this time is for all of us. If we're having a really tough time during this COVID or this pandemic, it's because we're resisting what is trying to be birthed in us. There's divine order in absolutely everything that happens. And when things are really feeling like everything's falling away and everything is hard, there's something in there that's the teacher, that's birthing in you. When we all finally got finished with it, after all of those tears, we all left the sweat, and we'd probably been in there for a few hours. Seemed like we were in there 100 hours. But we all went out, and everybody just flopped their bodies on the dirt, and if you think we're all in like white, sweaty, soaking wet clothing, you didn't care. You just wanted that cold earth on your body. And we laid there with the night sky in a way that was palpable. We weren't alone in our own separate areas. I literally saw people flinging themselves on a hill over here, but all you could hear was the crying from the souls of everybody that was sitting inside that sweat lodge. How about everybody stand up and try moving these moves? Because every one of the moves in these songs are to evoke your spirit to share with yourselves. Oh, Earth Mother, I hear your call. Oh, Earth Mother, I hear your call to honor the sacredness And if you've ever been a part of ceremony, something is evoked, and that line between the spirit realm and the human realm, it thins. And you get messages from your spirit guides, your spirit, your protectors, the ones that have been supporting you all along, and finally you've done the ceremony to open up, to hear them, to see them, to feel them. You feel your ancestors, your divine beings, your guides surrounding you, holding the space. We're all laying there, and I felt like 1,000 people were around my body, releasing me, bringing me back to my truth, reminding me of my divine heritage, that I was made in the image and likeness of God. So nothing should be hurting me, making me afraid, or making me feel broken. They were there, palpable, and they're there every minute of every single day, trying to remind us of our wholeness. No matter what's going on in the world outside of us, within us is a divine being that has direct connection to all the many lifetimes that you've had trial and tribulation, to access what you did before so you can do it better this time. And until you've had that experience, you can walk through life feeling very alone. And I want to put this slide up about grief and how important it is. I have to do it? Oh, there we go. I have to read it? Okay. This is from True Refuge. People in grief are the closest to God. From True Refuge. In the Lakota Sioux tradition, a person who is grieving is considered most awakened, most holy. There's a sense that when someone is struck by the sudden lightning of loss, he or she stands on the threshold of the spirit world. The prayers of those who grieve are considered especially strong, and it is proper to ask them for their help. You might recall what it's like to be with someone who has grieved deeply. Their person has no layer of protection, nothing left to defend. The mystery is looking out through that person's eyes. For the time being, he or she has accepted the reality of loss and has stopped clinging to the past or grasping for the future. In the groundless openness of sorrow, there is a wholeness of presence and a deep natural wisdom. Whether grieving the loss of your own life or another's, we each have the capacity to see past the veils of separation. If our hearts are willing, grieving becomes the gateway to loving awareness, the entry into our own awakened nature. I always think it's an interesting thing when men, when I counsel men, that, there's that upbringing that we raised our sons to be strong, so that when they're in pain, they try to keep themselves from weeping and crying, because it's considered to be weak as far as the society goes. And for me, being a spiritual counselor for over 25 years and being a minister for over 20, there is nothing more beautiful to me than a person that is in their truth. They're not falling apart. They're falling into that which they're meant to be. And when we try to avoid the pain of feeling of all the things while things are falling away, we keep ourselves standing in rotting water that doesn't move. It's not the river that's moving and continuing. You're sitting in stagnation because you're questioning what your heart wants, because the intellect is telling you should do something different. The heart always knows. what is needed. And so it's important to feed the heart with beautiful feelings, doing things in nature, reminding yourself, getting yourself rooted on the ground and feeling nature and asking Mother Earth to give you the answers of what is next. When you are taking care of yourselves, you are taking care of everything else. Do not lose the spiritual dimension. Always remember that taking care of yourself, as long as you make sure that you bring that back out, it's giving and receiving. Giving and receiving. And when you need support, this spiritual center is here for you. This place isn't about, there's no minister that works here that thinks that they are any different than equal with you. We are the reflection of what you are. And you are the reflection of who we are, which is Christ light in potential. And some people are just Christ light. So I wanted to talk a little bit about a shamanic journey. I've had people ask me, have you ever been on a shamanic journey? And if you were raised by Norma, you were on a shamanic journey like every day, so without the hallucinogenics. And I want to also make it very clear, when people say shamanic journeys, they tend to think that hallucinogenics are part of it. And actually, the true shamanic journeys do not include substances, because our spiritual unfoldment, thinning that veil, will be as visually and heart-opening and powerful in a sober way, and you'll see that magic exists, and you don't need to have something alter the brain to bring you there. So, a shamanic journey, you know, there are shamans that will take people on that journey, but the truth is life is a shamanic journey. If you're always looking for the ethereal realm and the love and the voice of spirit moving in and through all of it. My youngest daughter said to me 2 days ago, she said, you know, it's weird that you don't really like Harry Potter books and, you know, books about magic and stuff. It's like really not your thing, and it really isn't. And my oldest daughter like read all of them and would leave every movie so transformed by them. And for me, it was just, what fascinates me, like the real magic, like you can actually, the palpable magic that we can actually create in this life. That's what makes you want to go on a journey like the work that I've gone into, which is working with the Akashic records, looking into your past lives, accessing, having those moments where hues and colors change and you know you're having a direct relationship with spirit. A week ago, I had a women's group in person, and we were talking about the Akashic records, and people were talking about their experiences with it, and the room changed. And I'd say 80% of the people, were any of you there at that group where we felt the feeling? It's not that spirit showed up. It's that we got out of our own way and went into the mystical realms and got to see what is always available. And prayer and meditation in numbers does help. Something about us being in a collective, because we are collective consciousness. So we help each other open up that veil for one another. And at the end, we all were saying a prayer, and all of us just had goosebumps all over, because we were in the midst, in the presence of a shift that was happening for a group of 11 of us. For thousands of years, shamans have journeyed into non-ordinary reality, seeking to help their kinsmen spirits in times of sickness and trouble. They use special rituals to go up towards the upper world or down towards the lower world. Might sound like heaven and hell, but in shamanism, both directions are good. See, that's really, really important. Because we do have to break through our ego. We have to break through the limited things that we hold about ourselves from our childhoods. We have to break through from the things that the first boyfriend or girlfriend said and made us feel less than perfect. To look from a lens of I'm made perfect. We are only experiencing what is in our own consciousness. So the spiritual work is to unfold and unpack the things that are no longer serving this soul so that it may fly. And because we need such a drastic change in this world right now, look at what's going on. Nobody's getting out of it. Not just the people on a spiritual path, and then everybody else gets to walk around like dodos with no awareness that there's something greater at hand. Everybody's life is being turned upside down. But some people are just flowing right through it. Because the outer circumstances of life already didn't matter to them. Their inner power, their inner peace was already who they were. They can be moved around, but they're Tai Chiing it, man. They're like the weed that moves in the wind. It's all of it. They live in a state of acceptance and surrender. And they stand up for their brothers and sisters, and they do their marching, but they don't move into the anger and the fear and the pushback. They're vibrating light beings, moving in and through and creating change in every area that is being called. The shamans meet these spirits in humans and in animal forms that advise them how to address each problem. The specific things shamans encounter in their journeys are unique for each individual and each person. Over time, the shaman builds a mental map of the alternate reality she is entering that allows him or her to better interpret and use the knowledge acquired in it to help others. I believe at the core of all of us, we're all shamans. I believe at the core of all of us, we are all the Christ potential. I believe at the core of all of us is the Buddha nature. But are we taking the time to remember the power that lives within each and every one of us? Let's stand. I am in your sacred light. I feel the radiance of all life. My heart is open, oh Lord. The ancient prophecy mentions that this is the time of great encounter. It is a time for the integration of the peoples of the four cardinal points. It is they who are now offering their teachings to the West in preparation for the day when the North Eagle and the South Condor fly together again. They also tell us that love and compassion will be the forces that guides the unions of all people. The new guardians of the earth will come from the West, and those who have caused a greater impact on Mother Earth now have a responsibility to remake the relationship with her. The prophecies say that we are finishing the time of the transition, and the fifth level of consciousness will begin to manifest. I'm going to invite my mom to come and play the bowls, and we're going to go into meditation. I want you to bring to mind the decree that you made for yourself at the beginning of this ceremony. And visualize as if your spirit guides are standing behind you right now, and ask them to touch your shoulders, to hold you, to move in and through you, how loved and supported you are. Listen from your heart. What are the answers for you from the spirit realm to help bring more peace, more love, more abundance, more acceptance, more peace, more love. Everything that can be understood is already within you. Every question we have is already being answered. Follow your heart. Your heart always knows what's best. When we consider healing aspects of our lives, we have to consider it for ourselves and let it fall where it does for others in our lives. But when we live in our truth and what our heart is saying, we can't think of our other family members and everyone else of what they're going to think about your personal choice and awakening, because they also are divine in nature and have the ability to also grow and expand and learn and be that perfect child of God. Happiness is our true life. Joy is the sign that God is flowing through you. Peace is a sign that you allowed yourself to heal. Love is a sign that you finally accept yourself for who you are in all the beautiful aspects that God created you to be. Remember to decree a thing, to ask the universe for support. If you didn't get a direct answer today, stay open and keep asking. And watch your dreams, watch your thoughts, watch your heart, and you will find the wholeness in whatever trial or tribulation you are facing. And the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. And wherever we are, God is. We'll take an offering for unity now.
So it'll be a little different today because of our restrictions, but we will still bless our offering together. And those of you that are watching this through live stream or on Facebook or YouTube, you can join in also. Just bring to mind the gift you'd like to make toward what is truly valuable. The spirit of truth is truly valuable. And so as we take our offerings in our hearts, let's bless them with this offering statement. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, because I give. And so it is. Amen. Again, I believe we have a basket in the hall. And of course, we have the dip jars for your credit cards. And you can go online and find a number of ways to give. We have text to give at 720-710-510201. You can download the Easy Tithe app, set up recurring donations. If you wish, call the church. We'll accommodate that. Dip jars for credit in the lobby. Online at unityofboulder.com. Cash or check in baskets in the lobby. Thank you all for showing up, turning out. We really are going through a beautiful transformation, even though a lot of it right now is an upheaval. We were told that, the masters have told us, it'll look like, whoa, this is really something to have to deal with. But at the other end of this, there will be a new birth. So these are the pains, the labor pains of transformation in consciousness. And we will see a new and better expanded humanity. So thank you again for showing up and sharing your consciousness. All right.
Close with I Am in Your Sacred Light, the last song we did, so that you have that singing in and through you all day, and let that just bless you. And you can stand up and we'll sing it together. I am in your sacred light. I feel the rays of all life. My heart is open. Oh Lord, let me know your will. I am in your sacred light. I feel the rays of all life. My heart God bless you guys. We will have fellowship out on the front steps, and we'll all be out there in just a few minutes.